All right, friends, it's T and I'm back with another video. And this video, it just popped up in the feed and I figured, man, I haven't watched it. I'm going to watch it with you and review the video. AlexLeonidas, you know who, from, so-called Alpha Destiny. He's changed it now to AlexLeonidas. I guess he's grown out of this Alpha Baloney Destiny stuff. The final power building debate, Dr. Milo Wolf versus natural hypertrophy. Well, there's two types of hypertrophy, but okay, let's hear what they have to say.
Detailed, nuanced videos are the norm, and of course, today's exclusive is no exception. Welcome to the finale of a hot topic that's been circulating over the last 2 months.
Remember, just because somebody goes like this, poses and shows themselves, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the muscle that you think they're carrying inside there. You understand me? There are two types of muscle. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which focuses more on the increase of muscle glycogen storage, which is a type of artificial muscle growth. And then there's myofibrillar hypertrophy, which focuses more on the increased myofibrillar size. And as you see here in this map, fiber size, sarcoplasmic, and then you see myofibrillar hypertrophy. Now, we have in science, they have three things they talk about: myofibrillar, sarcoplasmic, and myofibrillar packing. How you get myofibrillar packing is all dependent. I'm not going to explain it now. Maybe I will, I don't know. I could tell you how to get that. But the most ones that are common in science is myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic. And sarcoplasmic means that the myofibrillars stay the same. The count is the same. The growth is the same. The only thing you got was glycogen inside there. That's it. Okay, let's move on to the video. So he could be carrying fake muscles.
To the finale of a hot topic that's been circulating.
And the reason you'd be carrying these fake muscles is because you come in as a chronic lifter. You're chronically lifting, therefore you are an endurance athlete. And if you're an endurance athlete, you're trying to enhance your performance. If you're enhancing your performance, your body will load glycogen inside the muscle in the form of storage. The more of this glycogen you eat, these carbohydrates you eat, the more glycogen you will store. For every gram of glycogen, 3 grams of water are drawn between the skin and the muscle into the muscle.
Over the last 2 months, one that almost everyone's addressed, and that is answering the provocative question: is power building an abomination? Or is it the best of both worlds for hypertrophy and strength? Who is it?
It's nothing. It's made up like everything else out there that they make up in the fitness industry. It's just another modality. That's all.
For? And what are the long-term pros and cons? Let's analyze all angles in this legendary...
He's small. He's tiny. He squeezed his muscles to show you he was muscular. Look at his shoulders. Look at his chest. Look at his waist. He's tiny. He's a regular dude. I'm telling you, he's regular. He's regular. Take a very good look at this guy. He's nothing. He's regular. He looks like a dude that doesn't even lift weights. The only difference is he's got low body fat there. He's got low body fat so that you could see something, okay? And then he was squeezing, and this is him relaxed. So it just goes to show you, it's all fake, man. These fake natties and everything, it's all garbage.
Debate. I'm honored to be the host, but I won't be the one debating.
Oh my God, I'm so tired of these fake natties, bro. I'm so tired of them.
I'll simply interject with some questions and comments here and there for flow.
He's the biggest fake natty of all of them. This guy is an endurance athlete, is sarcoplasmic. You can tell from his training what he's doing. You can pinpoint it. He's very weak. He tries throwing up these heavy weights. I've done so many videos on my old channel. I can't do it again because I don't have the material. But I'm just telling you, man, it's bullshit. Everything that he is doing is garbage training, okay? It's sarcoplasmic.
On clarity, just so we're on track. But
So he looks big to you? Does he look gigantic to you? Does he look massive? Huh? Because he's lean. He's an ectomorph. He is an ectomorph of an ectomorph. Because he said he weighed like 120 pounds. Fuck me, man. Never weighed 120 pounds in my entire life. But yeah. So I don't know what he's weighing now. He says he's weighing up to 200. So he went from 120 to 200 or something. Whatever. I don't know what that is. He's growing. He's growing. He's still growing. He's young. I don't know. Whatever. The point is, Whatever he has here, this is nothing. He has no lats, nothing. There's nothing going on there. There's nothing, man. There's nothing. Not even his arms. They're small. His legs, look, they're subpar. So I don't know what these people are trying to prove. If he stood on a scale and he weighed himself, let him weigh himself. Figure out the weight ratio to what he's showing here and his sarcoplasmic training. That's it. That's all I could tell you, man.
My job is to hear everything that Dr. Milo Wolf and
Very average.
natural hypertrophy have to say and see if we can all come closer to a common agreement. I'm excited to hear your arguments. And for the viewers, after done watching this, post in the comments what makes the most sense.
Even AlexLeonidas here, Alpha Destiny, he's below subpar. You wouldn't know what these people walking down the street in a shirt, you would never know that they lifted a weight. And me, I don't even lift. And I look like a bodybuilder. And me walking in a shirt, everybody's looking at me, man. Women can't stop looking at my arms. People stare at me at the gym all the time. And they're like, how the fuck this guy look like that? And he's like gone for months at a time. And then he appears out of the blue. Sometimes he's gone for months, sometimes weeks. Then he just appears once, randomly, once in a while. How the hell does he look like that? It's really simple. It's really simple. It's built through myofibrillar growth and all sarcoplasmic training.
You. Now it's time to settle things once and for all. Thank you very much for being here, you two.
Thank you for having us. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent introduction. Feels like two champions walking into the arena ready to fight. I just want.
You know, I would love for Alex to interview me one day. Now he never liked me way back in the past on my old channel. I don't know what he's probably thinking about my new channel now, the lifting slave stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't mind him interviewing me. I'd interview him. He can interview me, whatever. There's so many things I would ask him and see what he would say about it.
I say it because the fire has been taken away from me. I just learned that Milo speaks French. So now
Yes, I look massive because I have low body fat and I'm a little man. He's got a big waist there.
I can't be as mean towards him because he's my fellow brethren, but I must admit that this entire thing started because of me.
And now in his shirt, he looks tiny in his shirt. Man, I just love these ectomorphs, man. They're amazing. The skinnier the ectomorph, the more they can show off this pretend size that they have, pretend muscles.
I made a video called Powerbuilding is an Abomination, which many people.
I made a video called Powerbuilding Abomination because I don't know anything about bodybuilding. I just know I lift heavy. I try to throw the weights up and down in my garage, and I hope for the best, and maybe something will happen.
Disagreed with, let's say, and Milo was one of them. So today we're going to have a debate, and hopefully people who
Oh my God, one fake natty disagreed with the other fake natty. This is great.
are going to take the time to watch this video are going to learn something from us. So what was your stance on this entire thing, Milo?
First of all, natural hypertrophy. Alex, thank you for organizing this. Really appreciate it. The first thing I need to say, and I want to wrap this up quickly, is, look, I am bigger than you, and therefore I'm just correct. Like, that's how things work on the internet.
You're bigger than them? That's how it works, bro. You're skinny, bro. You're small. What are you talking about? Look at your shoulders and arms. You're a tiny guy, man. I don't give a shit what you're doing there. Deadlifting. Every young person can deadlift that. I could show you Mark Strasny and all these other people. They're all fucking squatting these like they're nothing and they're kids.
Whoever's bigger has the final say. Sorry. On a more serious note, I'll give my
Okay, so then I'm bigger than you, so I must have the final say then, bro.
actual thoughts on powerbuilding. In general, I don't think powerbuilding is a nomination, and here's why. First, I think we're coming at this from a very different epistemic position, right? Like, you're trying to get at the truth of how effective is powerbuilding for building.
Power building has been around, this power building word thing, whatever, has been around for like, I don't know, years. And all of a sudden, they're bringing it up now because what are they, running out of material? The fitness industry is running out of material, bro, to scam you with.
Muscle and for gaining strength from a different perspective than I am. I'll speak for myself.
Holy shit, look at this lifting slave. Jesus Christ, man. This is fucking lifting slave, bro.
Don't want to put words in your mouth at all. From my end, looking at the evidence is predominantly what I'm going to draw my assumptions from, my information from, and a starting place for most people, and saying, okay, well, what does the evidence
Did he say he was bigger than them? Look at his arms and shoulders. He's tiny.
actually say is happening when we try and combine strength work with hypertrophy work? Can we get
Yeah, strength work at lifting something heavy. What about physical strength? You gonna get some physical strength in there too? You're gonna get some size so you're physically stronger? Or are you gonna be small and weak like an ant that can lift 10 times its body weight and then you come around and step on it? Look at this guy. He doesn't even look like he lifts, bro. Look at him. In a t-shirt, he'd fucking disappear. The only way to make him even look semi with size is put him in a really extra small t-shirt.
The best of both worlds. To what extent can we get both at the same time? That's my perspective and where I draw my information and try to get at the truth from. So the first thing
Christ, he's fucking skinny as a motherfucker. Looks anorexic, bro.
would be to just define powerbuilding. Powerbuilding ultimately, at the most basic
Tiny. He's tiny. He said he's bigger than these guys. He has no calves whatsoever. My calves are like fucking 10 times the size of his, and they're not even pumped, bro. Ha! His back is small. He just, look, he doesn't even have an ass. What the fuck? No shoulders, no arms, no forearms. There's nothing going on there. The chest is completely flat. The back is flat.
level is just trying to combine some powerlifting work with
no
some
chest.
hypertrophy work. I think for some people that might mean competing
Man, this is funny. Like, what is this? Like, what is this exactly?
in powerlifting. For some people it might also mean competing in bodybuilding. For a lot of people it means neither. So at the most fundamental level it is just about training to both get better
Holy shit, yeah, man. I'd be embarrassed to show myself, man, looking like that. The fuck out of here.
at powerlift and to gain muscle. Right? I think that a lot of the confusion from
Power building and to get muscle. How does power building build a muscle? Food builds muscle.
around this topic from your video, from my video, and what have you, potentially stems from a difference in also how we saw powerbuilding. So for me, powerbuilding is a concept. If you look at it as how people practice that concept, or some people specifically, you might come away thinking that, wow, powerbuilding really isn't optimal. Now, we need to answer the question first of why would combining hypertrophy work and strength work be an issue in the first place? Why couldn't we just get the best of both worlds? Because, you know, we need to answer that question.
This is typical lifting, power, or you can call that, I don't know, deadlifting, whatever, man. These powerlifting people. So you're lifting, you're trying to throw the weight up in the air. You're throwing it, you're pulling it up, against gravity. You're pulling as hard as you can against gravity, and then you're dropping the weight. You don't want to get you want the eccentric without the concentric. So yeah, there's zero concentric here. That's it. This is androgen receptor training, okay? This is androgen receptor training for that force production because it controls the strength. It does not control the mass of the limb muscles.
Well, there's kind of a theoretical component and a practical component. Theoretically, I think there are three components that make combining two different modalities or two different goals kind of difficult, right? You're not going to get the best of both worlds. Specifically,
Again, if you truly want mass, you should focus on deadlifts, should be your main focus. And the second focus should be getting more myofibrillar growth. And the third, protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown. And you need to stop focusing on being a chronic lifter. That doesn't work there to get myofibrillar growth. And then stop eating this fucking, your carbohydrate diet, your herbivore diets. Man, loading these carbs in there and getting these phony sarcoplasmic muscles. You gotta focus on eating protein, high dense nutrient diet.
there's the component of molecular signaling. So if, for example, you look at the research of people trying to both gain strength, but also gain endurance, for example, trying to combine running and lifting.
You are gaining endurance. I tried to explain this before. You people who are chronically lifting, if you are a chronic lifter in any gym, in any sport, you are an endurance athlete. You have to be, because it's based on enhancing your performance. You are enhancing your performance there. But number one, you are getting androgen receptor strength through these adaptations in overload. You're progressively overloading the weight on the body, on the skeletal, moving this against gravity. Your body's compensating with androgen receptors for that molecule to bind to the receptor. See what I mean? I've explained this in other videos where people ask me, well, how do you stay anabolic and strong at the same time, getting these androgen receptors, whatever, and even using it for growth and everything else? It's easy. You need to overfeed yourself. You need to be in an anabolic growth state by eating a lot. And that way you shut off the catabolic hormone. When you shut it off, it it converts to an androgen, so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptor, giving you maximum force production. Since we know that AR is for maximum force production. Now, without these ARs, you lose that force production. We definitely want to accumulate more ARs. How do we do that? Well, we need to keep increasing the weight. But we don't want interference, so we want to be anabolic. So we want to get rid of the catabolic hormone, convert it to an androgen, so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptors that do accumulate, and you'll be able to lift even heavier. See what I mean? It does not control the mass though. But now a disruption to the fiber, lifting exorbitantly heavy weight, you may get some fiber splitting there. It's really relative. It's hard to say. But if you're a chronic lifter, you may screw up the repair and the remodeling. That's all power lifters do that because they just keep coming in too often and they mess it up. You may even get an apoptosis. It's really hard to tell, okay? These things branch, whatever. You mess it up. That's the problem with chronic lifting. And because muscle requires a period where it has to go through a repair and a remodeling, they won't allow it to break down anymore. You could get rhabdo and die in a stupor in a hospital. You can't injure or tear up these muscles daily. It's stupid. Don't think that.
Weights, right? Something you find is that the signaling pathways involved in making you stronger and also giving you greater endurance can actually sort of intersect. And if you do both at the same time, you're not going to get the best of both worlds as far as actually molecular.
You are getting endurance and you are getting stronger. You are getting these glycogen muscles. You're getting increase in glycogen, this sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And you are getting stronger because you are getting stronger because the myocytic androgen receptor controls the strength. See that? Yeah. It's just used for, it's required for maximum force production. Without them, there's a decrease in muscle strength. If there's a deficiency in AR, like it says there. Yeah.
The best of both worlds as far as actually molecularly what's happening. So at least on that level, there is an issue with combining different goals, training for different things at the same time. The second theoretical issue is time, right?
Training for different things at the same time. No, you're not training for different things at the same time. You may be getting something else, training for a particular thing that may manifest itself. For example, if a bodybuilder is chronically lifting, coming into the gym, he's chronically lifting, he may be thinking he's getting myofibrillar growth. He may be thinking he's getting this damage to the muscle fiber, even though it's protected by the repeated bout effect phenomena. And in fact, he's getting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. He's lifting, but his goal is really myofibrillar. He thinks he's building muscle. He's going to go there, he's going to cause this damage, going to build muscle, blah. He eats a whole bunch of food at home, but he eats a herbivore diet. He's not eating a protein diet, even though that protein needs to see this breakdown to build muscle. So he's kind of doing the opposite. So him not mentally thinking about that, he's getting the wrong type of muscle growth that he's particularly looking for. But does he really care? He just wants to get as big as possible. He doesn't really particularly, he's not a strength training athlete. But are bodybuilders weak? No, because they're taking steroids. Steroids are enhanced performing. And if you're coming in the gym lifting chronically, that's enhancing your performance. Get it, man? And so if it's enhancing your performance, you're getting better, getting these androgen receptors for that force production, which is a molecule strength, then yeah, bodybuilders are getting the same thing. You understand me? The only difference is they're doing a lot more repetition work, high volume, getting more of this sarcoplasmic hypertrophy than average. Here, let me show you. They would be doing it more than average than other people. So if you notice here that high volume resistance training in trained young men largely attributed to sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, this glycogen loading, because you're an endurance athlete. So bodybuilders usually focus on high volume resistance training, but power lifters, they focus on lower resistance training and whatever, and trying to overload it. But bodybuilders are doing heavy and higher resistance, higher volume, okay?
Issue is time, right? Ultimately, for most people in the gym, there's only so much time you have to train. And so if you're trying to chase two things at the same time, and they're kind of pulling in different directions, you might not have enough time to actually optimally achieve both. Even if, say, you...
So in fact, there's no difference between a bodybuilder and a powerlifter. The only difference is, the strength is the same. The only difference is the bodybuilder is moving for reps, high reps, heavy weight, high repetition. They're moving for low rep, heavy weight. You understand the difference? Low repetition, heavy weight. Bodybuilders, heavy weight, higher repetition. Yeah.
could if you had enough time. So for a lot of people, time is just a constraint. So powerbuilding will take away time from hypertrophy training and therefore give you worse hypertrophy results if you don't have enough time. And the final issue, theoretically, is fatigue, right? Fundamentally, you cannot recover from infinite training. Your body has certain systems in place that are, for example, impacted by your sleep, how much stress you have going on, what your nutrition is like, and so.
Again, he's tiny, he's small. I don't even know if he's a powerlifter. What he's trying to show his body here like a bodybuilder. Look how skinny and small he is. Christ, man, he's tiny. It's just a little guy.
Fourth, and you can't just keep training and recover and benefit from that training. And so even if you had enough time available,
real people don't want to recover. That's endurance training. If you're recovering, bodybuilders grow. We don't recover. You understand me? Athletes who do sports recover. Bodybuilders grow. You don't say I'm trying to recover. You say I'm growing.
and even if there wasn't any molecular issues with combining two different goals, there is going to be a recovery issue wherein you couldn't just do all of your strength work, get maximum strength gains, and do all of your hypertrophy work and get maximum hypertrophy gains. Now, practically, these are theoretical issues, but they haven't actually been studied.
This is embarrassing. I wouldn't even bother to go on a stage, man, to show yourself. This is just ridiculous, man. It's just a waste of time. You're trying to compete with people taking drugs, this natural world, the cosmetic world, and everything, people trying to combine the two. It's just garbage.
Much in relation
You can't compete with cosmetics.
to doing power building training. Like, you'll find very few studies that actually look at power building protocols directly. So off the bat,
You can't compete with doing something artificial as something you're doing real. You can't compare the two because they're not the same.
we don't have perfect answers here. That's the truth. But we do have applied research where we actually do give people programs that somewhat combine strength work with hypertrophy work, or that try and combine different goals. I think what we can look at is kind of breaking down your training into a few different variables, right? You talk about this a lot on your channel. There's exercise selection, there's how many reps you do per set, there's how many sets you do. There's a few variables that we're concerned with because they seem to be influential for how much strength you gain and how much muscle you gain. I'll kind of break them down and point out where the research suggests that there is a difference in how you should train to gain strength in the powerlifts versus how you should gain muscle. So the volume that you benefit from for hypertrophy and strength, as in number of hard sets per...
He doesn't say what type of hypertrophy. There's more than one. That's the problem with these fake experts. They don't tell you anything. They just think everything's hypertrophy. To them, everything is hypertrophy.
week per muscle group, let's just define it that way, is relatively
If something gets big visually, it's hypertrophying, Mom. Look, I put this synthol. Look, I put this site injection. I fake these muscles and everything, but they hypertrophied.
similar for strength and hypertrophy. So you can see good...
I love this strength and hypertrophy. If you get myofibrillar hypertrophy, I'm talking about sarcoplasmic, will you get stronger? Of course you will. Your speed and your strength will increase exponentially. But he says I'm focused on strength training, meaning what? Androgen receptor strength.
robust, close to optimal gains with similar volumes for strength and hypertrophy, but generally you will benefit from slightly higher volumes of hypertrophy. So you're giving up a little bit of gains there as far as hypertrophy goes if you're choosing to go the powerbuilding route.
Again, your body still works on the same principles as in nature. These are called adaptations, and everything rapidly adapts quickly. Your body doesn't want to give you muscle, it rapidly adapts. It doesn't allow the type 2s to get damaged again. Moves into type 1. What is type 1? Motor units, slow twitch motor unit. It's endurance. And then you're chronically coming into the gym. That's why it's doing that. I'm simply explaining what they're getting according to their training. That's all. I'm not telling them how to do specific trainings to get specific things. I'm only telling you what they're doing, okay?
Making some sacrifices in favor of powerlifting strength. The second thing is the movement patterns involved in power building, specifically the big three, although few power builders exclusively use this, aren't perfectly suited to hypertrophy training, but they do a decent job.
It's actually the big four, not the big three, but okay, whatever.
And in fact, if you look at my area of research, which is range of motion, and that's a big way in which different exercises differ, right? There's not a huge effect of range of motion on hypertrophy. So even if you say you get 75% of a full range of motion,
He's simply lifting like a factory worker, just good at doing that without getting any damage to the muscle fiber. This is endurance training, and so you get glycogen loading. Yeah, it's a protective effect for people that do. The muscle is protected from any damage for people that do physical labor jobs, so they don't get this damage and that they don't keep coming back damaging their muscles without it repairing and remodeling, ending up in the hospital in a stupor, in a coma, and dying. Nobody would be able to work out there if that was the case. Get it? And if you were to get these muscle cells and they were all to keep getting bigger and you would get more of them every time you lifted a weight, well, that would be uncomfortable too on your job. Get it? You walking around 4, 5, 6, 700 pounds of muscle and never stop growing, you'd commit suicide and die. You would want to kill yourself. So there you go. To build muscle is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to build myofibrillar growth, but sarcoplasmic is the easiest. That's why what's his name? Larry Wheels put on 53 pounds of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy eating at the Golden Griddle in 5 days. And all these other people that are telling you you're going to build 20 pounds of muscle in 10 days or 5 days or whatever it is, or 20, 30 pounds, whatever, it's all sarcoplasmic. No muscle could build that quickly. No real muscle myofibrillar. That I know.
Of a full stretch by doing a powerlifting squat as opposed to...
And muscle has to go through, even if it is damaged, it has to go through a repair and a remodeling. That could take 10 to 14 days. Yeah, it's all dependent. And if you don't eat enough, you can get an apoptosis. You'll lose muscle fibers. That's even worse if you damage them, fuck them up. Or just come back and work over the damaged muscle fibers. This is even worse what some people do, and then they just can't figure out why they're shrinking. They're like, I'm getting smaller. You're getting smaller because you're losing muscle fiber now.
Getting a full deep stretch on each squat, you're missing out on some hypertrophy, but you might be talking about a couple percentage points. That's not a big difference. For people who don't care about getting 100% of their hypertrophy, we're not talking about a huge difference. But again, there is a slight trade-off there. As far as frequency goes, how often you train each muscle group, I think there's actually a lot or even entire overlap between strength and hypertrophy. If you see a lot of the best programs for hypertrophy, a couple reps closer to failure. Talking about a range of motion that's pretty solid, gets you some stretch, versus
I don't know. This guy's just wasting his time. He's tiny, he's skinny, doesn't even look like he lifts.
Range of motion that might get you more stretch, which based on the evidence, again,
I have a lot of things to say about this. So, first off, I think that anyone who has listened to my videos and listened to you...
Look at me, the French guy with the 12-inch arms. Yeah. I have very low body fat, but if I was fat, you would not be able to see anything.
This actually pretty excellent summary of the entire question here understands that we pretty much agree. Meaning that this is my point. If your goal is pure hypertrophy, then you should train for pure hypertrophy. But then there are...
If you go for pure hypertrophy, you should train for hypertrophy. Which one? Myofibrillar or sarcoplasmic, you loser?
Certain things that I heard in your discourse that I disagree with. And I think the point and the entire revolving door that is going to separate us in this debate is going to be this idea of specificity and also this idea that you can get 80 to 90%. I think that...
Specificity, 80 to 90%, the specificity. Look how tiny he is, man. He has no chest, he has no shoulders. His arms are fucking really tiny. What you're seeing here, it's a fake, it's a show. He has no size. He's tiny. He's small. He has nothing. What he has is very low body fat. It's called ectomorph. Get it? Everybody's ectomorph or muscular.
This is doable if you allow both size and strength to balance each other out.
He has no back. He has nothing here. Look, he's nothing. It's just show. You're just seeing an ectomorph flashing himself around. And so what?
And you don't let one take over the other. The issue is that this is not what...
Look at me. I am ectomorph, lifting slave. Gym slave. Yes, wasting my time.
I see. Meaning that there is this perfect idea of power building that exists as a concept. Then there is...
You know how tiny he was when his arms went down? Looked like a regular dude. And he's lost in a shirt.
The practice of it. And what I see in the practice of it is that naturally, certain movement patterns take over because they become a priority in your training. And these patterns tend to be the big three.
Man, he's really trying hard now. Hey, holy shit, to try and impress you.
So on paper, you're going to think to yourself, powerlifters have crazy quads for days, glutes for days, excellent body hypertrophy that they pursue. It'll still be better than what they would have gotten from a system that looks like at the big three as the main component of the entire
It's actually the big four, but it's all bodybuilding too. Bodybuilders use that. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
concept.
So I wrote down your major arguments on both sides. I'll quickly re-mention the points and we can go on from there, addressing what is most important. Milo talked about time constraints, fatigue, and how there's similar volumes for hypertrophy and power building. The movement patterns adequately develop the X-frame. There's similar frequency, same rest, and lots of muscular overlap. He also noted that anecdotes are not the best and that the evidence is not against power building. That differences are mostly a rep range concern, say comparing sets of 3 versus sets of 10 and going back to efficiency. And of course, there's the leverage.
Nothing would matter what you're doing if you're an endurance athlete. If you're chronically lifting, you're an endurance athlete. Anything you do would not matter. It's endurance, okay? Now, as far as the adaptation in overloading heavy weight, lifting heavier, that is androgen receptor. Your body's compensating you with that. Much like a lady that lifts a car off a kid, she gets a rush of adrenaline. That's about it. Binding with the androgen receptor, giving that force production. It's chemical strength, okay? It's a known fact. Science will tell you this. Chemical strength.
Of certain movements, like low bar or just trying to optimize specificity, plus RPE and how
it isn't based on myofibular growth. It isn't based on your natural strength, myofibulars. If you grow more permanent myofibulars, you have natural strength for the motor units to proliferate to the other fibers, giving you more force production, natural force production, and more androgen receptors will bind to those new fibers. They'll be permanent. See what I mean? They'll be permanent. And so you'll have permanent strength. Natural permanent strength. More of it.
Be lower for strength training, which also plays.
You won't have to train. You won't have to train to come in to do 500-pound squats. You'll just be able to come in off the street 2 years later and just literally get under a bar of 500. You'll be able to do it. You'll be able to do 300-400-pound bench presses without having to practice at it. You'll come in and you'll be able to do it all the time. You could go away for a year, 2 years, whatever. You come back, you'll be able to do it because you'll have permanent myofibular growth. Yeah, man.
Into the time factor, but that most of one's hypertrophy potential would still be optimized. Then for natural hypertrophy, his main point is that strength is polarizing, and that an overfocus on the big three generally causes spider physiques, and by extension, muscles that aren't the prime movers will not end up 80 to 90% developed. There's a distaste for isolation work, and essentially, physiques are defined by the arms, which usually end up lagging. In the real world, imbalance.
Yes, and I've known this for a long time. Physiques are judged by the arms. Yes, definitely. It's the arms make up everything about the physique. If you don't have arms, you got nothing, bro. I've never focused on my arms when I go to the gym. I'm always focused on my chest first, my back, my shoulders, my forearms, my abs, my neck. The last thing that I ever do is my arms. So they never really truly get worked. They get worked through the exercises, so there's nothing for me to do on my arms. I never work them, and I actually have the best body part on me are my arms. So you get the point, man.
Is almost inevitable, and that taking on a more bodybuilder approach has less risk by comparison, and you'll still get very strong in the end. So,
of course, I would have to agree with Alex there. The bodybuilder is the best way to go. Bodybuilding is the best modality. It focuses on everything. It makes you bigger, better, stronger, and faster. Now, I'm not saying it will make you better if you're doing sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, but if you focus on myofibular hypertrophy and you do bodybuilding for myofibular as opposed to sarcoplasmic, then definitely you're going to get better, bro, for sure.
I think there's some agreements here, but that certain programming ideas and aesthetic expectations differ.
The destination is important to underline too, because you will hear many people as a counter-argument to the critique of powerbuilding say, well, if you want to bodybuild, you still have to get stronger. And no one denied that. Of course, it's a metric of performance and progression.
If you bodybuild, you have to get stronger. But what if you get bigger? Will you get stronger? Well, if you get myofibular growth, you get bigger, you will get stronger. But if you get sarcoplasmic growth, you'll get bigger, but you will not get stronger. But you will get a stronger lift if you keep lifting heavier. You'll get chemical strength.
You're going to have to get stronger stronger. But the question is, how do you get stronger? And I like.
That's a good question. How do you get stronger? If you get myofibrillar hypertrophy, will you get stronger? But if you get sarcoplasmic growth, will you get stronger? See what I mean? Now, if you practice at lifting a heavy weight and get androgen receptors, will you get stronger? Yeah, it's an adaptation process. These are all adaptations. Enhanced performing, the sarcoplasmic is enhanced performing. That's an adaptation. Myofibrillar, that's an adaptation. To what? To these muscle injuries. You're not injuring muscles. You're not growing myofibrillar. I'm sorry. They have to be injured.
The rep range that you bring up, Milo, because I think it's actually a very good example. You take two groups, one that does a 3x10 and one that does a seven sets of 3. Okay? First, I must say that 7 sets of 3.
These have nothing to do with these modalities. They have nothing to do with them. Not sets of 3, 5, 10, whatever you're doing. If you're an endurance athlete, if you're chronically lifting, you're an endurance athlete. If you're periodically lifting, you are moving towards myofibrillar growth. That's it. It means this lifting stuff is meaningless. This sats, reps, what the hell he's talking about?
Is already sandbagging, because
if you can't split up the two, that's meaningless. You understand me? So he doesn't even know what he's shooting for.
Able to do the 3 reps with the same weight 7 times in that, Milo.
By and large, I agree with you. Like, I think on rep range, we basically agree. I know in your original video, and in previous videos actually,
rep range has nothing to do with anything there. Just higher volume, lower volume in sarcoplasmic, and I guess myofibrillar, higher, lower, higher would be better and heavier.
Recommended sets of as few as 3 reps. I think that's spider physique.
Milo makes a lot of good points, so...
Spider physique.
Milo makes a lot of good points, so... To be, I think that's nonsense. I think it's the reason of poor methodology, and this is what we're here to discuss today.
It goes back to you deadlift past 500 pounds for reps. That takes a long time. So
I like Alex showing his phony body here again. Maybe this is creatine, maybe this is jugs, I don't know. I know he's faked it somewhere along there to get lean like that.
I don't think you're saving any time just off that. And there's so much fatigue generated on a separate set basis that you're better off.
This is endurance. I would call that endurance. If you're lean like that and looking like that, that's endurance. That is endurance. I'm not joking. That doesn't mean he had to have eaten a lot of glycogen now. He could be wearing out the glycogen stores doing this endurance lifting now. What he did was he cut his calories. That's what most people do, cut their calories, whatever the fuck they're doing there. They cut out all the carbohydrates, and what do? Get lean. Doing what? Endurance athlete. Endurance lifting. Shit. So you see what I mean? So endurance lifting can get you what? Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy muscles if you eat more glycogen. Then, can you get lean doing it? Yes, you could get lean when you cut it off. Get it? Very simple.
Doing something that is more hypertrophy focused, like an RDL or a good morning.
Again,
in my experience,
he's like more in hypertrophy. Hypertrophy has many meanings. Inflammatory response, blood flow restriction. I don't know. Lactic acid buildup, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, myofibrillar fiber. What is this? I don't know. What's he doing there exactly? Androgen receptors, getting more androgen receptors. That's a type of hypertrophy training. You're training for hypertrophy. I don't know. Androgen receptor strength. Need more of these androgen receptors. Huh.
Of making the switch, it allowed me to actually deadlift 600 pounds without even training to lift. So low specificity,
It allowed him to lift 600 pounds without training to lift. I saw him training. He's training to lift that 600. He could never lift it off the bat. He can't lift 600. Nobody can off the street. A regular person. He's a liar. And he's a little guy too.
Hypertrophy the primary movers, focus on other hip hinges that was not conventional dead or sumo. Lo and behold,
Notice how he's very muscular here. I really doubt that he did this natural. I don't know. I just really doubt it, but whatever.
I was able to pull more. But me training more so to raise my deadlift didn't have the same effect on my physique, is what I'm trying to say. Regarding the bench...
Look how tiny he is in his shirt. He's tiny in his shirt. He looks impressive here with the ripped look. He looks impressive here. But he's pumped and ripped, which really, that's really hard to pull off.
I built up to a 405 bench at 185 body weight. I even did a 380 close grip bench. And I was told for years that if I just get my pressing numbers strong enough, I'm going to have massive triceps. They're going to mog everybody. And yet, There were people who didn't even bench 3 plates who already had 17 plus inch arms, and I found that it never made sense. So my arms peaked at 16 and a half. I switched over to complete bodybuilding training, got them up to 17, and then shortly after, with some more
17 what? Sarcoplasmic or myofibrillar growth? How do you know the difference between the two? How do you know which one you're really getting when you're training? How do you know how do you know if you're getting myofibrillar? How do you know it's not sarcoplasmic? And how do you know you're getting sarcoplasmic and you're not getting myofibrillar? And how do you know you're getting myofibrillar and you're not getting sarcoplasmic? See what I'm trying to explain to you? How do you know? What's the feeling? What are you going on exactly there?
bodybuilding training, 17.2. Yet my bench press did not budge an inch. It's the exact same. My close grip bench is the same. However,
this looks very Winslow V type of Primaballin, Winslow V type of fucking rip, bro. You know what I mean? With a little bit of pump in there. That's just very suspect.
my isolation strength went up
I
tremendously.
always figured that Alex would fake it, and he did. After all these years of all this lifting, all of a sudden, in just this last year, he looks like that out of the blue. Yeah, man. He couldn't do it before for over 12 years, but all of a sudden, or 12 or 13 years, but all of the blue, he could do it in like less than a year. Okay, hurrah.
So my dumbbell extensions went from like 40 pounds per hand to 60 pounds each hand. So there was a 20-pound increase on
No way, no natural people don't look like that at all. That looks so unnatural, man. I don't know.
isolation strength, which represented a direct increase in muscle size in my triceps.
He's lying to you.
And I can say the same thing for weighted chin-ups, which is not a powerlifting argument, but this is more of a calisthenics perspective, that getting to 4 plates as a 1 rep max, my arms were barely over 16 inches. So I got really, really strong.
Barely over 16 inches. His arms are probably 12, okay? Like Blaha's.
At 2 of the best compound movements that everyone swears will get you huge, including on weighted dips. I did 5 plates, and my arms are my worst body part, next to calves, of course. That's the bias that I have against that. However, I would absolutely state that it worked one.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I do think that some of the issues you might have experienced could have potentially been remedied. And again, this comes back
I don't know. I just don't trust any of these guys. Look, I'm not saying you can't get lean, even natural, but I just don't trust them, that's all.
to the whole idea that powerbuilding is a concept beautifully. Does it optimize either? No. That's kind of my... So, I actually agree with natural hypertrophy here. I think that if you're being super specific from day one, and you persistently only ever remain specific, I agree with you there.
I'm glad you said that.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and also not to take anything away.
Being motivated or adhering to certain philosophy.
Yeah, and that's where...
Yeah, and you tap also into something that's interesting, and maybe we can discuss it for your goals.
So I think that there's...
These are perfect closing words. I also want...
That's where I came from.
I also personally despise this notion.
Man, I hate people that do these cable things. This is just bullshit work, man. This is like fucking endurance training, man. This is just stupid shit. That cannot damage a muscle. I'm gonna tell you right now, these surgical bands cannot damage muscle fibers. They're not gonna damage muscle fibers. I don't care how hard you try, even if you are untrained. It's not gonna work.
That you're only allowed to be passionate about something if there is a payback, if there is a check that drops at the end of the month. I see this as a consequence of the modern world, personally, where your productivity needs to have a tangible...
Yeah.
I'll be quiet now.
So... I come at it from a relatively evidence-based perspective. I've also done the thing.
So have I. I've done it from evidence-based. I've done all these. I'm a super athlete, and I already know where to look for all the answers. And I post them all over my channel in my videos, and I don't want to post them in here. I'm tired of this. I gotta go. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Comment down below. Helps the algorithm. The natty slaves. I would call these people the natty slaves. The final word debate on power building debate. It's just garbage, man.
Coached hundreds of people at this point, so I think I know a decent amount about this stuff, but my main information...
I don't think he knows anything. He's just faking it. He's an ectomorph. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, friends. I gotta go.